Okay everyone, welcome back to the channel for another video on Gran Turismo 7, and we are back with our weekly race review video. So I'm going to give you my verdict on all this week's daily races, and we are starting off with daily race A at Tsukuba in the go-karts. Now I really like daily races when you use something different like this, especially when there's no SR and DR. I think it kind of works for these races, and I agree with them settings being off. So go-karts make sense for a daily race A. And go-karts are pretty fun in terms of the racing. There is a few issues with the drivability of these go-karts and the physics within the go-karts, which I'm not a massive fan on. I also use the cockpit view for the go-karts. I find it easier to drive these in the cockpit view. So if you want to give these a go, maybe give the cockpit view a go. A little bit easier. Also, ABS off with these. And another point to point out is you need to probably use a little bit of counter steer assist with this. It makes it a little bit more realistic, I would say, if you can use them words for these go-karts on this, because the physics are really all over the place. And to be honest, it makes it just a bit more fun to drive these with counter steer assist on, as you can see as we go into the corner. Just saves the rear a little bit. And yeah, basically, I don't know what it is with Gran Turismo, but they don't do go-kart physics very well. It wasn't very well done on GT Sport. I'd probably say it's even worse on GT7 in terms of the way they drive. However, if you use this tip of using this cockpit view that I use, it makes the steering a little less sensitive, makes it a little bit easier to drive, and use that counter steer assist. It will just help you keep these go-karts a little bit more smooth and have a bit more fun with this race this week. And fun is definitely there to be had, as you can see there. Multiple cars going through the corners now. One problem with this view is you have to put the radar over to the right, which makes it even harder to see in certain situations, but on the straights at least you can have a little look at that and pay attention to where the go-karts are side by side and stuff like that. But a lot of side-by-side racing in this race, a lot of going through the corners. You see they took a little bit of a slow line there. We tried to avoid it, might have just given them a little brush on the outside, but nothing too severe. And now into the braking zone. Now with this go-kart, you can get a lot of sliding into the corners. If you get on the throttle really early, you can get really good exit speeds and really gain a lot of time. It's about practice with this. We've done quite a few races with Daily Race A this week. So far I did it on Monday and today as well. I've done a couple. So yeah, we've got a good idea of how this race is playing out. It seems like if you can get in a group like we've got here, there can be a lot of good fun to be had with this Daily Race A. The problem occurs if you get into a lobby where people are just wiping people out, and then it's not going to be the most enjoyable experience, because once you get hit in one of these go-karts, as you can see from what just happened into turn one, pretty much going to be your race over, because your go-kart's going to go sliding off very easily and straight into the barrier. And you can see that is one of the problems with this race at the moment. You can see we're already down to 10 drivers, where 2 people have left the lobby, and that's going to happen because once you're out of it, it's pretty much race over with little mistakes. There's another driver who runs off there, that promotes me up to P4, but still having a lot of fun. I have to say I'm enjoying this race. It's definitely what Daily Race A is about, in my personal opinion. This is how we should be doing Daily Race A's. Something unusual, something fun. You know, Tsukuba, go-karts. It's a good combo for Daily Race A overall. But like I say, it's going to lose some marks because go-karts are just not that well done on Gran Turismo. I think there's a lot of improvements that can be made, as P1 has a massive moment there, loses a position, and a new driver in the lead of this race. So you can see even the leader there having an issue with this go-kart, spinning out of control, and it's going to catch a lot of you by surprise with the way these go-karts handle and the physics. So yeah, definitely loses a bit of a score rating because of the way these go-karts drive. They're a little bit weird, I've got to be honest. Just my personal opinion. Some people might like it, but I can tell you 100% I've driven go-karts and they do not handle like this. They're not even vaguely in the same dimension of how this handles, and I'm pretty sure other people would say the same if they've driven go-karts in real life. They will tell you the same thing, that these do not handle very realistically. However, realistic isn't always fun, so there is a lot of fun to be had on this, as we're going to go up the inside here on this final corner now. This is a tricky one. You can definitely take this inside line down to 5th gear, try and let the revs keep going through it. Be careful you don't slide too much, and we managed to creep our way up into P1 there. So a nice little move. We're going to go defensive there. We see on the radar he's going down the left-hand side. Try and brake late, down to 3rd gear, let that little drift go in, and then get back on that throttle. You can see how it drifts very easily, and that's where the counter steer assist will give you some assistance on this combination. So hopefully that can help you enjoy this a little bit more than what you would without using it. Now I'm going to try and get a race done or a couple of races done in VR for a video. Let me know if this is something you're interested in seeing, and also make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. We are going to do these race verdict videos every single week on the channel. Now, one thing I do want you lot to let me know is your verdict on each and every race out of 10. So for Daily Race A, leave a rating in the comments. Daily Race B and C, do the same thing. Now you can see we're up to P3, back up to P2 now as we overtake the car with a penalty on lap 7. And now we are going to be going into the final lap as we go through the final corner. A little bit too far behind the leader to battle, but it's been an enjoyable race, I have to say. This has been one of the better races we've had. So we have had some disasters, we've had some good races, had some fairly average races, but overall I think Daily Race A is probably one of the better races this week, in my opinion, to be honest, when it comes to fun. But there are probably more races which we're going to get into now which might suit you a little bit more. There is dependency on certain aspects of what you like, whether you're going to like other races more. But for fun, I think you're going to have a lot of entertainment on Daily Race A. As you can see, as we're going to go defensive, he's got that slipstream. Now, one thing you can see is the slipstream in these go-karts is massive. You pick up a lot of draft. He's going to go around the outside there. He's going to cut back, pick a bit of slipstream up, and go up on the inside. And it's actually going to be a photo finish over the line. Look at that. Look at the deltas. Oh, so close between myself and P2. But what a race. Enjoyable stuff there in Daily Race A. And for that, I'm going to give this Daily Race A 7.5 out of 10. And I think it misses a mark. I think this would, if go-karts were a little bit more authentic, I think that would have been an 8 out of 5 race, easily. Unfortunately, go-karts aren't the most authentic. You need to use the assist, take ABS off and stuff like that, which is actually correct ABS off. But yeah, overall 7.5 for me. You let me know what you think. Next up, we have Daily Race B. And we are at Bathurst in Group 3. And we actually have a longer race for a change as a Daily Race B. We are at 5 laps, which is a positive change from PD. We do prefer having that slightly longer race, so this race is over 10 minutes, so it definitely gains some marks there for increasing the race distance. However, instantly, we're going to lose some points because we're on racing hard tyres, and I've got to be honest, with the wind direction on this race, you have variable wind speed, which they shouldn't really be using for time trial, but it's on there, so you are going to have to take a bit of time to find them optimum conditions to get the wind going in the correct angle. I think you really want the wind to be pushing you down the back straight and into your face probably on the first straight, because it's not as long the first straight, but the back straight is where you really want that wind to be helping you out. So try and pay attention to that in time trial. Obviously also conditions and the speed of the wind. There's so many variabilities, you might not think it will make a massive difference, but it will probably lose you between 0.3 to half a second depending on whether you get the conditions right. So yeah, I do find it a bit strange that they're doing that for a short race like a Daily Race B, but makes a bit of variability, and it does cause these cars to drive like they are driving on ice. Just to warn you, if you get a bad wind direction and quite a strong wind direction on racing hard tyres, this isn't the most fun combination, I have to be honest. It's a shame. I think if we would have been on racing softs or mediums with a static wind condition, this would have been really entertaining, especially with the 5 laps. Could have been a really good one. Now, there is a lot of potential to still have good races here, and one good thing about the wind being quite strong is it brings a few other cars into the race. Porsche, for example, a lot more stable than the Supra. The Supra that I'm in, very sketchy, and I actually think possibly the Porsche in terms of race conditions might be a better car than the Supra, so give that Porsche a go. You can see I'm running -1 on the brake bias. We have brake bias available for this week's Daily Race B and C, and I'm thinking of redoing a new brake bias video because a lot of people have been requesting it, so I'm probably going to go into detail about what you're doing with the brake bias and why you're doing it, because we did one on GT Sport if you want to check that out. However, I think it could do with an update, so maybe do a new one now that we're getting brake bias into Daily Race B and C. You can see I'm running -1. That is mainly because we're on racing hard tyres, and I feel like this car's going to kill me every single corner. Maybe we will need the ambulance that is coming to the game soon. I'm not joking there, we are actually getting an ambulance added to Gran Turismo 7. But yeah, -1 gives the car a little bit more stability when you're braking into these corners, and just kind of actually gives a bit of understeer. So what that does is stops that rear sliding so much, and in these conditions, as you can see there, Max Power's a massive moment, lost the rear into the corner. Luckily we hit him, but luckily he stayed on the track and I didn't lose control of the car. We have got a lot of damage on the front, but that promotes us up to P1, and luckily for us, there's not much Bradley can do behind us in the other Porsche, because you can't really overtake here at Bathurst on this section of track. It's pretty much single file, and try and line up this corner for your overtake. This corner is so important. This is the corner you want to get right. So if there's one corner on the track you want to get sorted and really nailed, it's that one there, to give you the traction and the pull out of this corner for an overtake down this hill. So you can see Bradley in the Porsche getting a bit of a bump draft there from the other Porsche. That's going to help him go down the right side. It wouldn't normally be able to do that kind of speed on the straight, but what I will say is that car's insane traction. So with the traction from that car, just makes it a little bit easier to drive, I think, in the conditions, and that's probably why you're seeing the Porsche used quite a bit here. Normally, the Porsche is a solid car, but it's not a car that you'd very often see being used at Bathurst. But with these conditions and the wind and the racing hard tyres, it's all adding up that the Porsche is actually seeming pretty good. Supra is still very good if you can get used to it, get a bit of practice, get yourself warmed up. And one thing I did notice with this is your tyres seem to build up temperatures. You're starting on the racing hard tyres, and they seem to get better towards the end of the race. Maybe a bit of temperature in the tyres is causing some of the issues at the start of the race with how pretty much like it's driving on ice. But yeah, it's a fun combo if you can get in with good people. I've done quite a few races here again this week before I've made my verdict up. Now the problem that we have encountered is they haven't been that busy, the lobbies, considering Mondays are normally very busy days. We've done some on Mondays and we've done some this morning, and yeah, it just wasn't as busy as I was really expecting this combination to be. And I think that's a mixture of not having the soft or medium tyres and these conditions making the track very, very sketchy to drive. So that's definitely knocked it down a bit, but it does gain a little bit of a score purely because PD have give it 5 laps. It's what we want. Thankfully they've done it. 10-minute race is much better than these 6-minute races for Daily Race Bs. We're going to go over the line and take a win in this Daily Race B. You can see here the Porsche pushing us right to the very end. Quite an enjoyable race. That was one of the better races we've had so far this week, and because of that, I think overall I think there's potential there, and I'm going to probably give that a 7 out of 10. Now it would have scored more. I think if we would have been on soft or medium tyres for that, it would have scored higher. However, them hard tyres knocking it down slightly in my personal opinion. But let me know what you think. I want to see what you lot think for that Daily Race B. So we're moving on to the final daily race, and we are at Trial Mountain in Group 4, and we only have medium tyres available. Unfortunately, PD have given us an actual pretty decent track for these Group 4 cars. They can follow, it's wide, good chances of racing together. There's a lot of side-by-side opportunities, and also the race is 10 laps long, which makes this race about 20 minutes. But unfortunately, PD didn't think about putting another set of tyres in there and maybe upping the tyre wear slightly. We're running this on a reasonably low tyre wear rate, so you do get worn tyres, but they survive the full 10 laps. I think slightly higher tyre wear, soft and mediums, maybe made it so the softs could do between 5 and 6 laps, depending on whether you started on them or what, and then had the mediums minimum of 4 laps. Could have been interesting, because you could have even then gone for like 3 laps and just gone around with a dead tyre at the end, lost time, and just tried to gain some time with that early pit stop. So yeah, a bit of strategy in this race would have made this race, in my opinion, a lot more fun. Again, let me know what you think with regards to that. I'm just putting this info out there and what I think in regards to it. It's not necessarily the correct opinion. I just think that putting the soft and medium tyres would have opened up a bit of strategy, some difference in car tyres on the track, and some entertaining races. It also might have brought in some different cars as well, and maybe some fuel. One thing I did mention was if this would have had a bit of fuel in there with compulsory pit stop with strategy, it doesn't matter if your car's bad on fuel, because you're going to be going into the pits anyway, so a pit stop wouldn't lose you too much with a bit of extra fuel. And that again would bring in other cars and strategy elements, a bit like Daytona week 1 that we had when we had the fuel there. That was really interesting. So as we see, a little bit of side-on contact with the two cars there. I'm not too sure what happened there. I don't think the Spanish driver was very happy with heat on with the move that he did, and I think he retaliated a bit, but that gave us the opportunity here to go up the inside and put ourselves up to P3. However, the other Supra is going to give a little bit of a bump draft there, which makes this move even harder, but we managed to brake quite late there, just about get ourselves up the inside and up into that podium position. But yeah, I would like to see some fuel and mandatory tyres with a little bit of fuel involved in the daily races again, because you don't have to save fuel when it's mandatory tyres. You can just go flat out, be aggressive, and normally that is a faster way anyway. So it just adds another element to the races, and I don't know why we haven't had them in there recently. We pretty much had it on week 1, best week we've had pretty much ever, I think. and never returned back to that kind of race. It's a shame. They got it right on week 1 and haven't been back to them kind of like multiple strategies, different cars and stuff like that. It would be nice to return to that. But this race does have some positives. It is obviously that you have a nice long straight in Group 4. Group 4 is very easy to follow on. The track is very wide. You've got a lot of battling potentials. As you can see in front of us, we've got 2 cars going at it at the front there, side by side. And there's a lot of corners where you can actually hang it round the outside and try and take a wider line. So look how wide this corner is. It's obviously cambered as well, but you do lose a little bit if you try and take slightly wide line. Then you do lose a little bit of pace as we skip a little bit ahead. As we see, we've managed to get into the slipstream. I think there's been a little bit of an issue for Ace ahead, and now this race is opened up a little bit. Maybe a chance of getting ourselves right at the front there and battling for P1. But we can see we've got P4 right behind us as well. That's going to make this race a little bit more difficult. Now, in terms of cars that you're going to be using this week, it is Supra. It seems to be the dominant car. However, what I will say is it's not OP. Some people thinking it's overpowered, but it's not. As we get a little bit of, I thought he was going to go for a move there. I'm not sure if there was a tiny bit of contact, but we kind of back out of it, and that moves us down into P4. But yeah, Supra seems to be the strongest in terms of overall for time trial. However, in race condition, I think the McLaren, Ferrari, Citroen could be. Citroen's probably a really good car to go with if you want to try something different, because it'll be very strong at the end of the race. That car has amazing tyre wear, so if you want something that's really good on the last 2 laps, that Citroen should be pretty solid. However, the Citroen doesn't have the most amazing top speed, so for the long straight you might be a little bit vulnerable, so do remember that if you're going to give that a go. McLaren again, very strong on the straight, actually stronger than the Supra, and probably better on the tyres than the Supra as well. So that car is going to be another option that you can use on this combination. Now, one thing you're going to have to get used to here is really taking advantage of the full width of the track. This, I said it on stream, this track really reminds me of the St. Croix type layout in terms of wide corners, really getting the full rotation in from the full width of the curbs, and that is going to be a very important element to finding pace on this track. Now, we're going to see a bit of an incident up ahead of us between 2 cars battling for the lead. We're going to see Fusa go for the move up the inside. He actually gets fully alongside, and then Ace actually turns right into him on the apex, and there's contact there. And then as we come through this corner, there's another big contact there, and we're just going to go sailing through. Thank you very much. Backed out a little bit because we saw the chaos, and you can see the car behind us hit us in the rear because we obviously backed out in case we got hit slightly. And yeah, we're up into P1. So that one was Ace's fault. We watched it on the channel when we were live streaming. He just turned in like Fusa was not even there. So I'd put that mistake down to Ace. But yeah, it's an awkward corner for overtaking. It's very often going to end in chaos, and you're probably going to see a lot of chaos in that turn 1 if people go for moves in general, because it just, the way the corner is, will cause a few issues. But you can see we're here, we're up to P1, and we're 3 tenths ahead of P2, so going quite well this race. And this again was one of the better races we've had. I decided to do this race from the front because I'm not particularly great at this track, and it's enabled me to start learning it a bit more, racing from the front, racing with the faster drivers. And we've managed to do a lap that I think is good enough for a track guide. It's not an amazing lap, but it's a solid lap. That's, I think it's a 57.4. We did a 1 minute 57.4, which we're going to try and get out on the channel tomorrow. So if any of you are interested in a track guide for tomorrow, we're going to go through the pointers to try and help you get a little bit faster on this combo, and see if we can help you out in the race as well with that, because using pretty much similar references for the races we do in the time trial. So yeah, if you're looking for that, get subscribed. Remember to hit the like button on this video, and I'll hopefully help you out tomorrow with that one. But getting on to this, overall, it's an okay race. This week seems pretty similar to last week for me. It's okay. It's not amazing. I think we're looking at reasonable races. I don't know whether they've got the staying power. The problem for me with these races is Daily Race C, no strategy. I think people might get a little bit bored of the race, just going 10 laps flat out, no pit stops, no strategy involved. Might not have the staying power that we've had in the past with some races. Hopefully soon we get some dynamic weather again that can bring us back to really just wanting to keep on racing, and that's what keeps people playing, the unpredictability. So this race is a little bit too predictable for me at the moment. It's just 10 laps, no tyre issues. You can see we're on lap 9. The front tyre's fading, but with the current tyre model, the tyres don't actually feel like you're losing too much grip. So maybe that's something that PD are going to alter in the future with a patch as well. Tyre model, I think physics are fine. Tyre model needs altering, because as the tyres fade, you can see we're on lap 10 now, you're losing a bit of lap time, but overall the grip just feels pretty good. It doesn't feel like you're losing that much time, and we're actually going to take a win in this race. You can see managing to hold off them drivers behind us and take a well-earned win there in Daily Race C. But yeah, my opinion, this race again could have been so much better with a bit of imagination and a bit of thought process from PD. It's something that I think they need to start doing a little bit more in daily races, is put a bit more emphasis on strategy, or some element of strategy, whether it's fuel. So my rating for this is a 7 out of 10. Again, very similar to last week overall for the ratings. And my overall rating for the whole week, again, is probably going to be a 7 out of 10 this time. I think we gave, was it 7.5 last week, or 7 again for that week. So yeah, it's not the greatest week. It's a pretty average week, I'd say, overall, and hopefully people will still be racing towards the end of the week. I do think it's going to drop off a little bit, but yeah, let me know in the comment section what you think. Does this week have to stay in power, or do you think it's going to fade off? What's your overall rating? Give me a rating for them daily races as well. Subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments chat. I'll see you all soon. Bye everyone.